who was on his way to join his division in Tobruk. Mersamatre had been a refreshing change after the first day's drive, when Yeoman had quickly discovered that places such as El Daba and Fuka were simply names on the map, with no houses or any sign of habitation except, perhaps, a scatter of litter where wandering Bedouin had stopped beside an obscure waterhole. Mersamatre, on the other hand, had provided a remarkable contrast with its sprawl of white houses and the cool, restful turquoise of the bay beyond. On closer inspection, the town had possessed little of interest. A railway station, a church, a mosque, and a few shops along what passed for the main street, and not much else. Mersamatre's claim to fame, in fact, was its water, which was drawn from artesian wells and which was among the purest to be found anywhere on the fringes of the desert. It had been so for 2,000 years, since the days when Antony and Cleopatra had come here to relax in the inviting sea that lapped gently against a spotless white beach. The following dawn, rested and washed free of the clinging sand for the time being, they had pushed on along the coast road towards Sidi Barrani. It was here, 5 months earlier, that a mighty Italian army under Marshal Rodolfo Graziani had assembled in a series of fortified camps stretching 15 miles inland from the coast, ready to thrust into Egypt and raise the flag of Benito Mussolini's fascist Italy over Cairo. All that had stood in Graziani's path, outnumbered 10-1, had been the puny and ill-equipped British Western Defence Force under General O'Connor, a small and energetic Irishman whose chief weapon was his flair for unorthodox tactics. O'Connor's tiny force had dug in at Mersamatre and prepared grimly to stop the Italians, or die in the attempt. But Graziani, preoccupied with building up strong supply lines, had never come, and O'Connor, weighing the odds and deciding that his 36,000 men were a match for Graziani's 300,000, had boldly decided to take the initiative. In December 1940, with the 4th Indian Infantry Division and the 7th Armoured Division, he had penetrated the Italian lines and taken the enemy completely by surprise, smashing Graziani's forces and chasing them into Libya in a 2-day battle that effectively ended the immediate threat to Egypt. Yeoman recalled how, in those dark winter days of 1940, the news of O'Connor's victory had come like a shot in the arm to the hard-pressed British people, reeling under the almost nightly hammer blows of Hitler's Luftwaffe and facing the dark menace of his seemingly invincible army across the Channel. O'Connor had given them what they wanted, and more. By all the rules, his outnumbered force should have halted after giving the enemy a bloody nose. But in January 1941, the redoubtable general, his Western Desert Force now renamed 13th Corps, and reinforced by the 6th Australian Division, pressed on to attack the Italian stronghold of Bardia and captured it in a single day, taking 40,000 prisoners. Less than 3 weeks later, the British were in Tobruk, the next port and fortress along the coast, and another 25,000 Italians were in the bag. There seemed to be no stopping 13th Corps. In front of O'Connor now lay the Jebel Akhtar, the fertile crescent of hills rolling down to the coastline of Cyrenaica, and beyond it the city of Benghazi. Along the coast road which wound between the Jebel Akhtar and the sea to the Gulf of Sirte, the broken remnants of Graziani's 10th Army were struggling to escape into Tripolitania. It was now that O'Connor took his greatest gamble. Although his tanks and trucks were almost falling apart, he hurled them across the appalling, uncharted desert tracks south of Jebel Akhtar in a bid to reach the coast road ahead of the enemy and bar their retreat. On 5 February, the British spearhead made it with half an hour to spare. For the next 2 days, a fierce battle raged around Beda Fom as the Italians tried desperately to break through. They failed, and when the 2 days were ended, O'Connor had achieved complete victory. The Italian 10th Army had been utterly destroyed, and in 10 weeks the British had taken 130